All right, Nick, good to see you again, even though it's the Pats are 1-2, and I'm having a really tough week anyway, coming off of a loss. And now the Brady game is looming large, which is why we have this guest on this week, because he's exactly the guy that I want to be talking to the week of the Brady game, what I'm calling go to Damarung, the battle of the gods. What's your opinion coming out of this loss to the Saints?
The loss to the Saints, I think it was probably one of the worst losses we're going to take all year. And not that it was that bad because we were within a score and a half, I'd say. And there was some bright points, but I mean, obviously we didn't want that. And coming into a challenge, and you've said this before, Jerry, yourself, most challenges in every storyline, the people who are going up against the challenge come off of the greatest defeats. And I would call that Saints game probably one of the bleakest moments in New England. How many times has New Orleans come into New England and done that to us? Not many.
Yeah, and the Pats doing everything wrong. And I'm going to get into this with our guest. Our guest is Pete Sheppard, Boston sports legend, who had the good sense to nope out of here and go down to Southwest Florida. He's doing Drive Time, the Shaman and Shepherd show on ESPN in Southwest Florida, flagship station of the Buccaneers. And we talked about it, how the Pats are in this mode, and it's been there all the way back through last year, where they do the dumb things that they used to take advantage of. Stupid penalties, ridiculous turnovers, lack of situational awareness. I mean, they've had 2 kickoffs put into the end zone in as many weeks, and getting beat on special teams, and giving up a cushion on 3rd and 1 that made no sense at all. So yeah, it bad taste in everybody's mouth, clearly, and you start really wondering, is this team able to respond? But I think you're going to find that Pete will talk us down off the ledge somewhat and put a little perspective in there, because I mean, yeah,
1-2, not bad.
Maybe about to be 1-3, like not the biggest, wouldn't be the biggest shock in the world if Brady throws 5 or 6 or 8 touchdowns against them. But there's an old curse of uncertain origin. Some people say it's a Chinese curse, some say it's Sicilian, but it's may you live in interesting times. And it's not a good wish. And this is the most interesting regular season game of all time. Are you mentally and emotionally prepared for this? Because I know I'm not.
So far, not yet. I'm just kind of taking it day by day, but both of us are living in Brady week. So we're going to be seeing the commercials, the 30 for 30 commercials, everything like that on repeat until Sunday at 8:20 p.m.
And on Monday afternoon, I posted the on Barstool, on the blog, the video that Sunday Night Football put out with Brady, highlights of him at Gillette and his Bucks uniform to an Adele song. And it's I'm pretty much going to spend the week listening to that in my bathtub, fully clothed with my knees pressed against my chest. So I'm psyched that we were able to land Pete Sheppard, because he's a good guy. He and I talk a little bit about the radio we did together, but nobody has a better perspective on Patriots Bucks than him. So what do you say, Nick? Let's light this candle.
Let's get into it.
Pete Sheppard, I haven't done this yet with a previous guest, but I have to do it for you now, because this is one of the great moments from the early Bronze Age of Barstool, your classic rant against WEEI.
I don't know where you stand on this. You may know this. My arch enemy in life is Jason Wolf. I fucking hate him like poison. I know you've had your issues with EEI. I don't know if it's him, but I think I hate EEI more than you. Well, it was a question line between hate and dislike. No, you know what? It's about Jeff Brown. Let's be honest. It's about some shit kicking hick from out of town who came up here thinking he knows everything about everything, doesn't know jack shit. That's what it comes down to. I don't know who Jeff Brown is, but I hate him just on that description. He's a general manager who's a fucking tool that everybody knows about. Everybody knows about. How long's he been there for? Too long. Too long. What do you think is going to happen? I mean, they're in the toilet right now. Here's what I think will happen. Think about this. Think about ESPN FM radio in about a year and maybe one local show left. That's what's going to happen. Do you get satisfaction like when the new ratings come out? You see him in the toilet. My uncle says,
You know, Pete, there is such an art to insult comedy. To really take a flamethrower to somebody is an art form. I mean, Don Rickles, the greatest that ever lived, is his current equivalent. Jeff Ross, the king of the Friars Club roast, is that something you're always good at, or was this like lightning in a bottle? Because that was such a moment of us feeling like, okay, we're making it here. We are an impact player in this game because we got Pete Sheppard just taking a blowtorch to somebody's testicles on our videos.
Yeah, I mean, it was all random. You know, I think I have a pretty good wit about me sometimes. Of course, I don't have a lot of original thoughts, as you know, as most of it comes from Seinfeld and my nerdy movies. But you know, I do have a decent memory. But that was I wasn't expecting that. Of course, you know, and Dave was interviewing me with a kilt on, so that was hard, right? Because everybody was. It was the first night at Twin River opening up back in the day. It was about 50 pounds, 40 pounds heavier then too. But it was the whole irony thing is Jeff got fired exactly when I said he was going to get fired. Jason was fine. It was a pleasure to work for him. He was a great guy. But after that whole incident, they still hired me back twice.
Absolutely, and much to my benefit. And by the way, with Dave in a kilt, that's hard for anybody. I mean, that, you know, we're all just flesh and blood ultimately.
I'm waiting for him to do one of his pizza reviews with the kilt on, and I don't know.
Oh yeah, and there's nothing. Seinfeld quote coming up. There's nothing between you and him but a thin piece of gabardine. my boy's got to breathe, Jerry. And listen,
what's the matter with my boys?
Yeah, I'm glad they hired you back twice because and this is not a dig at anybody else that I worked with at EEI, but after I left and I was back at Barstool, and this is for the brief window after I was no longer full-time at EEI, but before Joe Zarbano tried to get Jared Carabas to violate his contract, and we could have no more to do with them. We could have no more contact with them. You and I did NFL Sunday for a while, and I think it was at your request.
That one year it was one of the funnest shows I've ever done. We had an absolute ball, and even into baseball season. Remember on Sundays with Rob would come on, we do Strawberries and Cream with him. Or was the brunch report? The brunch report with Strawberries and Cream with Rob Brad. I mean, the whole thing was just great. And doing the Patriots pregame with you, I think that was a lot of fun doing it that year.
Oh, straight up. And I had a lot of really fun co-hosts because I mixed and matched for the longest time before I was full-time. Never had more fun than I did on those. That's why I'm psyched to have you here, especially this week of all weeks, because
why?
For the listeners who don't know, long before Southwest Florida stole the GOAT of football from us, they stole the GOAT of sports radio from us. And Pete, you jumped ship, you took a lifeline, and you went down there, and you've been living your best existence while we've been up here suffering and dealing with that loss. And all of a sudden, like now you're having a boat parade in your town. So, and again, this is Pete is and I said this in the intro, but the co-host of Shaman and Sheppard, Drive Time down at ESPN WSFL radio.
Southwest Florida,
yeah. And goddamn, man, I like it. The odds of you picking the exact market to go to that Brady goes to is astronomical. Well, or maybe it's 1 in 31, whatever. I don't know how math works, but what has been the impact down there? Is there like a generation of otherwise like disengaged Bucks fans that are suddenly feeling like we've felt for 20 years, or is it still kind of?
Well, I mean, it's like it's amazing going from again, I've always, this, I say this all the time, I take no championship for granted because you and I, so I'm 54, you're probably 10 years older than me, but no, I'm kidding. But
Thank you. I only look 30 years
I'm
younger.
only kidding.
Yeah.
No,
thank
but
you.
I mean,
This show is all about my own self-aggrandizement. I just want you to know that. As long as my hair looks on point, I don't care about anything that's said. So go right ahead.
You look fantastic, darling. I take nothing for granted. All the championships we got in all four major sports, and then not to mention, BU, Boston College, Providence. My Friars win the hockey championship, a few years ago. I mean, I take none of that stuff for granted because it can vanish just like that. But down here between the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Tampa Bay Rays, so I think are the best team in baseball, top to bottom, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the resurgence. It's been off the chart, absolutely off the chart. I mean, Bucs games, obviously sold out last year, or this year. I mean, they had, they can only have limited fans last year, but it's the buzz is absolutely out of control. And I love about it is there's so many people that did not like the Patriots, Tom Brady, and the old Seinfeld thing again about rooting for laundry. Now they love it. They're like, whoa, wow, how can he? Whoa, man, this guy, no wonder he was so big. Oh, it's not all the refs and all the other stupid stuff going on. This guy actually is really good. Great. Yeah. So he won over a lot of people. Plus, I had to look at Jameis Winston, except for yesterday, the luckiest pass I've ever seen in my life. But I mean, they had to deal with that for a couple of years over here. So.
Oh, yeah. And I straight up want to get into that game from this past week. But have you seen the meme that someone has done, and it gets updated every once in a while, but the Tom Brady effect, you know what I'm talking about? Like, right, since, and I'm working backwards here, but since he landed in Tampa, how many of the three teams have gone to their finals or won? Prior to that, for the 20 years he was in Boston, we all know like how many wins they had. And then back to when he was at Michigan, like, like the Tigers and Red Wings were winning titles.
Yeah.
And then it goes all the way back to when he was grown up in San Mateo and sitting there watching Joe Montana light it up. And I think, I don't know if the Warriors ever won one during his period. But
I don't think so, but
the Giants, I think, won while he was there. And it's insane. And to the point where it really dovetails into my theory that Brady's not of this earth.
Well, and to your point, the fact that he got, and I do believe he was a big part of it, it's unheard of to have, as you know, and I'm sure all the Patriot fans up there know, I mean, and anybody who follows the NFL, to have all 22 starters back and special teams, everybody back, it's almost impossible to do. And everybody came back. The majority of them came back because of him, at least one more year. I never thought Evans and Godwin was going to be here. Both of them. I thought one of them would be here. I didn't think AB was going to stay. And for this, despite my despise of him and what he did to a lot of other things, but to have all 22 players back is sick. And last night, yesterday when we were doing picking our games, like back in August, about win-loss, that kind of crap, win-loss. And I think I had Tampa Bay at 15-2. And that was one of the losses last night. That's a big spot for the Rams. So not a huge deal, even though they did beat them in Tampa Bay last year, 27-24. But they to get all the starters back, all that talent that is on that team, and with that coach, Bruce is a terrific guy. It's just unheard of. It's just unheard of. Even though they had a little setback last night, I don't think they're going to lose many more games the rest of the year.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally not happened in the Super Bowl era. They're the 55th team to win a Super Bowl. No one's ever brought back all 22. And because usually it's the way the NFL is structured. They do this intentionally. It's not a glitch. It's a feature that they want teams to get successful, and then everybody gets to go cash in and go elsewhere, and and everybody wants to try to buy that winning vibe or whatever. And I mean, the Patriots have been victimized by it time and time again, and still somehow managed to win. It had no effect on Tampa. It had nothing affects Brady. Like
nothing.
Convinced, and I think I complained to you about this on your own show about like after the Super Bowl, like we're all up here in Massachusetts live in this dystopian hellscape. It's the middle of a winter. It's like, it's like an Ingmar Bergman film where I'm minutes away from playing chess against death. And he's on the field after the Super Bowl in his own stadium, played 3 postseason games away from home, and now has the Super Bowl at home, and everyone's masked up except for him. And that's when I realized he breathes the vaccine. You get all the antibodies you need if you just breathe the same air that he exhales. And again, not of this earth. There's a theory in the cosmos of physics, astrophysics. I won't dive too much into it, but it's called the Bozeman brain, where they say eventually the universe will decay to the point that it will form a brain and gain like a cosmos-sized consciousness, and that we're living in the memories of that consciousness. And I say it belongs to Tom Brady.
Him or Ted Lasso, one or the other.
You know what? I could live in either one of those universes, except that Ted Lasso didn't break my heart and leave. And then I want to get into this, and Ted Lasso would never have the people close to him take this opportunity to dump all over the Patriots and Bill Belichick, which, all right, his Tom Brady Sr. did. Okay, sure. What dad wouldn't do that? You've got total, papal dispensation to say what you want to protect your son. And he was actually kind of gracious about it. But then Alex Guerrero, who, if Tom Brady hadn't decided that, okay, I'm going to be business partners with this guy, Alex Guerrero would be the assistant manager at a pickleball court somewhere.
Yeah.
He might be a gym teacher, but then they would do a background check and find out he's run afoul of the FTC for peddling stuff and been sued a couple of times, and maybe
I think he's Scott. How I feel about it. I've said it a million times, and I appreciate Tom's my Ted Lasso. I understand his relationship with him, and he doesn't give 2 shits of what I say about him, nor should he. I've said it for many years. I think Guerrero's scum. I mean, it surprises me that he's in that type of relationship with Tom and other athletes now too, as well. But it is what it is. You can't deny the result. Whatever it is, it makes him. He plays well. But Alex, that bullshit. That was just. I question the timing of it. And Karen's a wonderful reporter. Why did he choose to speak at this time? I don't know. It just seemed odd. I mean, it's no news. It's not no breaking news. It's just he's pissed off because Belichick didn't like him, want to let him in the building. It's old grudges. It's the same old thing. Nothing, no breaking news there. And Tom Senior's been on our show before as well. I love him to death, but I mean, enough already. It's the same old thing. Yeah, you say, was Brady, was he vilified? Yeah, damn right was. Well, I mean, look, I think people just make way too much of this stuff. Everybody wants to associate some kind of blame or assign some sort of blame to somebody. For Christ's sake, it was 20 years. The first time he was ever a free agent. I still don't think people get that. First time ever he was a free agent. And leaving the Patriots at that time was the right thing to do, going to Tampa with the talent they had there. Perfect fit, coach. All right, you appreciate each other and you move on. I don't understand some of the fan base out there that still doesn't get it. He was a free agent for the first time in his career. It was 20 years. It was just time. It simply was. I'm glad he moved on from there because, I mean, the weapons that were around him, and you want to blame Bill, whatever, for some of it, especially that, the last pass we ever saw him throw is a pick 6 against Tennessee in a playoff game.
Yeah, to Logan Ryan, no less.
Yeah, I hated that he went out that way. But, I mean, just get over it, man. And maybe it's because I'm older. I'm 54 years old now and more seasons. Life's too short. Get over it. It's done.
Yeah,
it's like Saluzzo with the guy, but he's dead, Tom, and nothing can bring him back. But
Pete and Thornton making the odd, rare pop culture reference, and I'm going to make another one for you. To me, it's like, if I'm Belichick, I'm listening to Guerrero, and I'm thinking exactly what Woody said to Buzz when they were stuck at the dino gas. Like, you had to come along with your cardboard spaceship and your lasers and take away everything that was important to me. And now, the world sees Belichick as like falling down beside the bed and he's forgotten all about him and gone on with his life. And I don't know how you argue against it, because
I-
Brady has the ultimate upper hand, and he's using it, but through intermediaries. Now, I'm not convinced that he's living every minute of his life going, boy, am I showing that guy. But I don't think these guys would be saying these things to reporters, not in private, but going out of the way to bring it up in interviews, if Tom wasn't signing off on it. Fair enough?
Yeah, but I gotta wonder behind the scenes, if he was off the record about not only his dad or Alex, if he didn't say, "Hey, let's just tone it down," huh? I mean, because he does care about his legacy and his reputation and all that too. And it doesn't look. I mean, I could see it called, "Dad, can you tone it down just a little bit?" Alex, I understand. I appreciate you, and I understand you're trying to protect me and all that stuff. But really now, I don't know. And it's all rehashed stuff. There's nothing new.
Right.
There's nothing new.
Tommy Curran was on our show a few weeks ago, and he said that same thing, only with regards to Tom Sr. going around talking smack about Roger Goodell. Now, I'm all about anyone talking shit about Ginger Satan, because looking in his eyes is like staring into Satan's butthole, and not enough bad things can happen to him. But he said that Tom Jr. told Tom Sr., like, look, you know what? If I ever need to go get another job in the NFL, like, it's not going to help if, like, I'm seen as the enemy of the commissioner and whatever. Don't know if he said the same thing about don't dump on Belichick.
Yeah, I mean, you probably never know the truth. All I know is when he's asked to respond, he handled it pretty classy. Tom did last week when asked about a lady. He just, he's not falling for the bait. He's not looking like a dick like Aaron Rodgers has the last. And I'm not talking about on the field, but except for the anomaly maybe in game one. But I mean, Aaron Rodgers has just been the complete opposite of Brady as far as mental state goes.
Yeah, is it me,
and an ego
or
state.
Is it really like a bad attempt to have a product spokesman be as sort of like unlikable as Aaron Rodgers? Or maybe only I find him unlikable, but those commercials where he's with Jake from State Farm and he's trying to act like he's like I don't know, like he's a folk singer or something, like he's a hipster with a top knot bun. And I just think, like, you're trying to sell a product or a service, have a guy who's really likable. And I just don't find that Rodgers is that guy.
No, we all know he's a weird dude. He hates his family, and there's no question about it. And you look at, he talks about, the stuff about blaming the media and the trolls. You created it, numbnut. You did this. You did this to yourself. You did this to the fans. And yeah, you're a great player, one of the greatest to ever play. No one's taking it. But you're the one that created this, or this, whatever it is around you. You did it. Nobody else. You did it.
Right.
So,
And Brady is still over his career at getting coaches fired. He's over his career at bitching about how they didn't, draft the kind of guys that he wants to have around him. He may feel that way, but he's been gone for a year and a half, and he has yet to sit there and complain about N'Keal Harry not working out or whatever. In fact, he's gone out of his way. He let you know that he hated a guy by just never throwing to him.
Yeah,
N'Keal Harry being
and I understand why he dropped so many goddamn balls. It was absolutely ridiculous. Now a guy like Jacoby Myers this year seems to be born again a little bit with Mac Jones. He is straight up now that James White is down. We have to talk about that, but I mean, that was horrible. Broke my heart yesterday watching Jacoby Myers is the best offensive player on the Patriots, and I think Mac Jones will overtake him. But for now, I mean, you got 14 targets on Sunday, and that's not by accident. That's because, he's in the Mac Jones circle of trust. Fucker, you got to get in the circle of trust. And I think he right now is the epicenter. Yeah, the James White thing, him coming back this year felt like, if not a miracle, like a really pleasant surprise. It's not going to make the GM saint, because it qualifies as a miracle because you need 3. But it seemed like for all the world, like he was going to go sign with the Dolphins and be with his mom after all the tragedies of last year. And he came back and was playing their best ball of anybody on either side of the ball. And then it's a hip thing.
as we're recording this, there's no definitive word and stuff, but you just felt the air go out of the stadium, even through your TV, because that's a tough loss, because there's a guy who just
it was
not just clutch, but does everything, and gives them that option of this Transformers offense that they can morph from Optimus Prime into a tractor trailer or whatever, just because of his presence. And I don't know how you replace that guy.
No, it's going to be very difficult. Somebody's going to have to step it up. They really are. He is a unique player, and his leadership is going to be missed. And but getting back to the game, against the Saints yesterday, and when Mac was not under pressure, he was really good. When you go back, I went through the whole thing again this morning and wrote down a whole bunch of stuff. Juno Smith, I want to kill him for dropping that ball and making that pick. And I don't know how Jameis is like, he's horizontal. It's what he's doing Tampa all the time. He's falling down. It would have been a sack even maybe 3 years ago. And he's still stupid. He's in 78 games. He still has 90 interceptions and 50 fumbles. He throws the ball. I don't know how he caught it. I don't know how it wasn't knocked down.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Kyle Duggar had him at a 45.
That was a miracle, and the pick six was a miracle. And then all of a sudden, you're looking at, the pick six. The pick six was they get down to the 9-yard line after that, the Juno Smith thing. I mean, just crazy. But it's like 2 or 3 plays that determines almost every single game. So I'm not going to sit there and cry about it. I just think people who are like shitting all over Mac Jones because he threw 3 interceptions. Okay, one he got hit and was like more like a fumble there. Okay, fine. The Juno Smith one, I hate that rule. I wish they would change it. I hate that stat because no quarterback should be responsible for a ball get into him. Then he flipped it up in the air. I don't know what he was doing, and it gets picked off. And then the last one was a bad pass. That being said, was a bad pass.
But even that last
one,
the
defense was fine yesterday.
Right. Even that last one, I chalk it up to well. That's the one that if you don't care about your stats, you've got to take shots downfield because time's running out and whatever. So I don't want to sound like I'm making excuses for him, but he's got 3 picks in his career, and I think so far none of the 3 are on him. Again, hit when he was throwing, and the Jono Smith thing, he was atrocious. He was absolutely abysmal when he wasn't throwing that ball up into the air to get pick six by it was Cameron Jordan. He was dropping balls, some of them not easy to catch, but catchable for a guy who is the number 2 tight end on the free agent market. He committed the holding penalty. He was getting blown up on that. There was that, and we need to get into the game plan too, because when they were giving the ball late in the game to Brandon Bolden, that noted bell cow back, that guy you just hit your wagon to, kids. The Barry Sanders of nobody's generation, and they're giving him the ball in back-to-back runs when. They've got a drive going and they need a score. And when he got the tackle for a loss, that was Smith got blown up. He was abysmal in every aspect of the game. And then Hunter Henry, made some catches. I think Smith was like 1 catch for 4 yards on 6 targets, whereas Henry had like 6 receptions and decent yards or whatever. I think 36 yards, but. The fact that these guys have come in here and made relatively no impact except in a negative way. I mean, like Hunter Henry, when they're 4th and 1 and they decide to go for it, a decision I love. Like, yes, absolutely, you go for it there because show some confidence in your rookie quarterback. And he's hard counting to try to get the Saints to jump off sides, and it worked on Hunter Henry.
Hunter Henry
out of the blocks like a sprinter and 5 yards upfield before he realized, oh wait, I'm the only one who's moving. Like, you're a veteran. You were the number 1 tight end available out there, and it just seems like, and this is, I'm going to throw it to you with a kind of a bigger picture thing, that they're making the kind of mistakes that they've always benefited from other people making.
Yes. No, that's fair. And I think, it's only game 3. They could be. It wasn't one crazy stupid fumble. They'd be 2-1, and maybe that changes the whole narrative of how people think. Same goes the other way. I hate to sound like Billy Beane. That's a process. It's a process. So, I think they are going to continue to get better. I don't know about this Sunday night. I think it's going to be very tough. I know the emotions are going to be high, but man, on paper to me, it looks like a 2-touchdown win by Tampa Bay, but we'll see. Stranger, it's a crazy, crazy league. Look at the Dolphins. They get humiliated in week 2 by Buffalo. They had a great chance to win that game yesterday against the Raiders on the road. So the NFL is just when you think you figured it out. None of us figured it out. But I do think the Patriots offense with Mac, I think it's going to get better. Now, he took a couple of deep shots down the field yesterday, fairly early, which I liked, but he missed. I think as the season progresses, he's going to make those passes. He was missing just by a hair, or maybe a little bit more than a hair. But I like the fact that they need to do that more. And I think they will continue to do that more. And once he hits 1 or 2 of those throws, then that's going to open up everything else. Let's not take away anything yesterday from the Saints defense, which is one of the best in the NFL. I don't think everybody talked about Washington all season long, including myself. They stink. And New Orleans defense is really, really good. You look at the Patriots defense, they really only gave up 14 points yesterday. You should be able to, you look at the total yardage, they outgained the Saints by 50-something yards. And I know some garbage yards, net yardage. I hate that stat, but it's not like the Saints racked up 5,000 yards. They had 252 yards total as a team. I mean,
yeah, and you know this about me well enough. And you know what? By the way, I can't stand people who start like, "Hey, you know me. You know me. I just throw it right out there. I'm a guy. Like no one. You brace yourself because you're gonna hear it. Because I don't care. Let the chips fall where they may. No, but my hypocrisy knows no bounds. So a week ago, I was complaining about. All right, well, they beat the Jets doing it this way, but you can't just keep relying on short passes.
More red zone points, that kind of thing.
And it was like let him off the leash a little bit. McDaniels let Jones, who was hitting on all the throws in preseason, in training camp, in joint practices, let him off the leash. Well, okay, the week before, Carolina beat the Saints by doing the opposite. Sam Darnold was getting the ball out quick, hitting slants or whatever. Why? Because one, they've got a really aggressive run defense. So putting your quarterback on a center and handing it off is not a recipe for success. I think they're giving up like less than 3 yards a carry when the quarterback's on the center on runs. And two, they have a pass rush, and Dennis Allen throws a lot of twists and stunts and whatever. So hit on the quick things. And they did neither of those. Like again, it was taking deep shots. Which
how about a tight end screen pass? I was just unimaginable. It was just shocking to me. And maybe then you see the opposite. What can happen with Justin Fields yesterday? I agree with Orlowski. Nagy should be fired. I mean, you set that guy up to fail. That is horrible. One of the worst coaching jobs. So you're looking at all the rookies, and by far, Mac Jones has looked like the best one. He has. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is not too far behind, but he's with a coach that he has no chance. You don't run a flea flicker when you're up 14-7 and throw a pick set. I mean, it's just off. I mean, Urban Meyer's a joke in the NFL. He's not. I give him this year, and then he's out. He's going to have a nervous breakdown anyway.
Without question.
Mac Jones is going to continue to get better and better and more comfortable. That's as down in the dumps as I've seen him yet after that game. I mean, he's got to shake it off. He's a rookie. And I tell this to people all the time. And I know it's a different era. Do you know how bad Peyton Manning sucked his rookie year? If people had the same mentality now that they did back then, they'd run Peyton Manning out of the league. Peyton Manning sucked. Not bad, sucked his rookie year. He was, for his first 4 years, his record was 16-16. Let that sink in. Okay? 16-16. And they never won they still hadn't won a playoff game yet. But he was Bledsoe had his ups and downs. He did better the last 4 games of the season. Remember, we knocked Miami out of the playoffs in '93. Belichick's, Bill Parcells' first year with the Patriots. I mean, you could see the progression, what was going on. And I think we're going to see a lot of that. I think the Patriots are still going to win more games than they lose. I think this offense is going to come together. Mac Jones is going to everybody stop comparing him to Brady. I don't want to hear that. I mean, I just want him to be an efficient quarterback, cut down on the mistakes. And I think his deep throws will get better as the season goes on. It's week 3, for Christ's sake. Let's wait, as we always say, till around Thanksgiving before we have a true assessment of what any team is about. Anybody think the Raiders are going to keep this up at 3-0? Stop it.
Right. All good points, because if everything else with this team was firing on all cylinders, but Jones didn't look good, then I think that's more of a cause for panic than, okay, they're 1-2. They've got a lot that they've got to clean up. but you've yet to see a moment where Jones didn't look like he belonged in the league.
I
You
agree.
know what I mean, even
Yeah.
okay, the 3 picks we talked about, but yeah, he misses on a throw. He had Kendrick Bourne on
Yeah.
a go route up the sidelines, and like
Yeah.
by 2 strides, he overthrew
Exactly.
him.
He's close. He's
Right.
close. He's
Yeah,
going to make those.
Overthrew him where it's not going to get picked. When he
Yeah.
misses, he tends to miss over leading the receiver by like he has to make a dive and catch, as opposed to on his back hip and it's going to get bounced around and picked off by a linebacker. But I've yet to see him seem overwhelmed. Like when the defense is throwing different looks at him and he's making his checks and he's pointing out the mic, is 54 is the mic, and check with me or whatever. And Cam Newton admitted he had never in his career been asked to
Jerry,
identify
that
the
came up
mic.
as soon as you said that. That came up on our show, and I was in shock. We had parents all over Southwest Florida calling and going, "My kid plays Pee Wee football. He knows where the mic in the well." And I had never heard that in my life. Never heard a quarterback not being able to point out the mic in my. I don't know if that got a lot of play up on Sports Talk Radio up there, but we were in shock. I mean, we did 2 segments. I'm like, who? How do you not know that?
But I guess because it's just the system he had been in, like, whatever Riverboat Ron was running in Carolina, it just was not an issue. But Jones has the makeup, the demeanor of a guy who belongs in this league. Like, you can't find any 2-minute clip of him running that offense where you say, well, this guy just does not belong here. But I guarantee you can say it about all the other rookies thus far. And there's not a fault of them. It's that they've been thrown into a situation where, again, you've got you said it, Urban Meyer. It took 1 game for anonymous sources in Jacksonville to say Urban Meyer's not in control and he's screaming at people and he has
took over
no
team
idea
drills, up downs. I got to say, stop it. And then they talking about every week's like playing Alabama. Oh, you haven't come close to playing the Alabamas yet. Okay, Arizona's a decent team. Yesterday you run a flea flicker when you're up. I mean, and I feel bad for Trevor Lawrence because he's a terrific quarterback. He is just. I hope Urban Meyer doesn't just. I hope he doesn't suffocate his career because the only reason why Urban Meyer came there is because of him. And he's just got the college coach mentality. I'm sorry. It's going to be a bust. He's going to be 0-10. I don't see how they win a game in the first 10. And I don't see how he's going to make it through a 1-14 or a 1-16 season or 2-15. I don't see him hanging around. I don't think he goes to USC or anything like that. But I don't see how Urban Meyer's going to make it. I really don't. He does not have the mentality to be an NFL coach.
Doesn't it make you shudder to think how many rookie quarterbacks or young promising quarterbacks, I won't limit it to rookies, had their careers completely derailed by landing in the wrong situation? Because Brady is the unquestionable GOAT of all. As a matter of fact, you can't even have the discussion right anymore about who the GOAT is. Look
at Donald and Rosen. To your point, I mean, I knew when when he got to Carolina with Joe Brady there, I predicted him to be before that. As soon as that trade happened, I go, he's going to be the comeback player of the year. Yeah. I mean, Jameis might challenge him for it eventually, but there's no question that I think he's going to be the comeback player of the year. The same about Josh Rosen, that poor bastard. I mean, my God, he's on his 3rd team.
Yeah, if Brady had been drafted by, I don't know, the Browns and the Patriots ended up with Tim Rattay, I feel like they could have made something with Tim Rattay, and Brady probably would have been out of football in 3.5 years because it's so much about the fit and getting that symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, no question.
Between coach and system and player and developing a guy. Like you said about Peyton Manning, as a rookie, he led the league in interceptions. That was the most he ever had in his career. Like his interceptions went down throughout, but they knew enough to say, all right, let's be patient and stick with him, as opposed to Rich Cimini. I mentioned this to Michael Hawley last week. From ESPN, who covers the Jets. He had this amazing number that after the Patriots picked off Zach Wilson 4 times, he says in 20 years, 4 rookie quarterbacks have had a game where they had no touchdowns and 4 picks. The last 3 of them were Jets.
Yeah.
And if you dig deeper, three quarterbacks from three different decades with three different head coach. It's just the system or the culture or I don't know, just the place is haunted. There's something about the Jets that just will forever destroy young quarterbacks.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. It's been a graveyard. I mean, I like Zach Wilson. I don't know. I just don't. I try to think back to all of the young players that I watched back in my 20s and 30s, young quarterbacks. And I'm like, okay, you got to give them time. I mean, everybody now wants flash over substance. So I don't know if Saleh. I think he's the right coach for the Jets. I don't know. Joe Douglas. I don't know how. Here's where the Jets really bleeped up big time. You got to have a veteran quarterback on your staff, somebody other than Mike White. You got to have a veteran, and I'm not talking about Cam. You got to have somebody that can come in and take over, and say, sit the kid down. I felt badly for him in the Patriot game last week. He never should have been in there for that fourth interception. I mean, stop the fight, throw the damn towel, and then at Denver this week the same thing. I mean, they got no chance. They have nobody. I don't know how you can run an NFL organization. And if you're the Jets and you don't have somebody that can come in and help a little, not a Ryan Fitzpatrick type, somebody like that. Mike Light, come on. I mean, that's embarrassing.
Yep. And you look at how San Fran is doing exactly the opposite. And I'm not sure I totally agree with San Francisco's approach, because to give up that much in a package to get your quarterback for next year, because clearly that's their plan. I mean, Trey Lance is not going to be taking the field anytime soon. They're paying Jimmy Garoppolo obscene amounts of money. They don't have enough faith in him to keep him beyond next year. Clearly, they're not going to re-sign him, and yet somehow it's working.
It's working. And last night, I mean, Trey Lance comes in. Did anybody not think he was going to run the ball? Goes to the left. It's like, hello, Green Bay, McFly. Anybody home? I mean. Everybody in the planet who was going to run except for Green Bay. I mean, they hung on. I mean, it was a great drive at the end by Rodgers, 35 seconds to go. But, geez, I mean, he wasn't going to throw the ball there.
Yeah, and and while we're talking about young quarterbacks and whether you throw them to the wolves or not, one thing that Jones has been facing a ridiculous amount of is pressure, and he's handling it well. I mean, you look at him statistically when under pressure. If you put any stock in the advanced stats or whatever, the Pro Football Focus, he's more or less in the middle of the pack of the NFL when he's facing pressure, but he faces it as much as anybody. And this offensive line, I don't know if you caught wind of this down in Tampa, but it was supposed to be the strength of this team.
I know.
They lost Joe Tooney, but hey, guess what? Michael Onwenu moves over from right tackle. He was a surprise rookie. And you've got, Trent Brown is back. Trent Brown has played 7 snaps.
Yeah. And they miss him. They miss him when he's not in there. There's no question about it. I thought the offensive line has been a little disappointing. And I think it's a credit to Mac Jones again, who we talked about his ability and poise and really maturity for somebody that young. If you go back and look when he's under pressure, just go back to yesterday's game. I mean, he did a lot of good things. It's not, nobody's probably going to remember him except guys like you and I, but when you go back and rewatch the game, and which still wasn't out of hand, by the way. It was still 2 scores. I mean, he made some really, really good throws in the second half. I mean, I know the interception at the end, and I understand it. I mean, that pick 6 doesn't happen on the Juno Smith thing, and who knows? It's a totally different ballgame. I don't mind, if you're gonna get pick 6, get pick 6. Your own guy. It should have been a first down for God's sakes. And those are the kind of plays that I'm just, I can't have it, Henry. I can't have it.
Yeah.
The 2 of them commiserate. I can't have it.
Yeah. My thing with Trent Brown too is, look, far be it from me to ever question somebody whether they're hurt or not, because I'm a guy who sits on his ass all day and burps the alphabet into a friggin' keyboard. But like when he first got hurt, they said, "Oh, it's a strained calf." I'm like, "Okay, cool, wow, dodged a bullet there," because I'm thinking, it could be high ankle sprain, it could be ACL or whatever, and he's still not back. And like, wait, it was a strained calf. Now I get it, that's a big calf. He's a large gentleman. You know,
Yes, he is.
his mass can only be determined by how light from distant stars bends around him. But like strained calf and you're out still and not even dressing. And Pete, here's my rule on injuries. And this,
Calves and hammies are always tough. You never know.
I guess, yeah. And I try to give credit to people like, remember Jacoby Ellsbury from the Sox had
Oh, yeah, of
busted
course.
ribs, and
Yeah.
people would question his toughness.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
if you ever busted a rib,
Yeah.
good luck getting in and out of a car. You're asking this guy to turn on
Or-
sliders in on his fist.
Or laugh or anything else. And, it happened down here in Miami, with Tua last week. And we had some callers like, he's soft. I said, what are you people nuts? You can't rush a rib injury back. I said, because if you do, you puncture a lung. You can't take that chance.
Yeah.
It's just people they don't see the big picture.
And never mind just the pain threshold, like do things effectively when every part of your body is connected to your rib cage. Now, okay, so I want to give Brown all the leeway I can, but I have a rule of injuries that two things. One, it has to be a part of the body that any preschooler can identify from the song Head, Shoulders, Knees, and Toes. Okay. Second, it has to be an action verb, like a break, a tear, a rupture, a fracture.
Okay.
Like Clay
Yeah.
Buchholz used to miss time with a strained oblique.
Yeah.
Or an avulsion, I think he had was
Yeah,
a
an
thing,
avulsion,
or revulsion. Maybe he
Yeah.
just was
Convulsion.
he got a bad haircut and didn't like how it looked.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I would laugh all the time, like in 6 to 8 weeks for Clay Buchholz. So Brown is such a domino that if it falls, everything else falls. The Spartan phalanx, if one guy can't hold his shield up, then the guy next to him falls or whatever. You get him back in there, and now Shaq Mason doesn't have to make up for the loss, and then you've got David Andrews can do his thing, and it all goes down the line. And they've just been in complete chaos. I feel like through 3
Well,
games.
I'll tell you what, it may seem like it up there, and maybe it hasn't been as good as it should be, but I'll tell you what, man, go look at the Miami Dolphins offensive line. My producer, Chris, my producer, and he's the biggest Dolphin fan in the world. He's a young guy, he's 30, but that offensive line that Miami's put together with all the draft picks they've had, you think it might be bad in New England? You should see Miami's. The guys like Austin Jackson shouldn't even be in the league. It is abysmal. It is absolutely horrific. And it was amazing that Jacoby Brissett did the job he did yesterday in a bounce back situation. But I know you may not like what you see in New England right now. Again, it's only week 3. It's only week 3, but I'm telling you, there are a lot of other teams in the league that are a hell of a lot worse. A hell of a lot worse.
I absolutely, I get you. And the defense was keeping them in it. Then just that drive at the end where, okay, your offense just got you within 8. So it's a 1-score game now.
Yep.
The crowd, and I wrote this in the knee-jerk reaction, was louder than when I get in my car and start it up after my kids had it. And they've got the hip hop station on it full blast. And there you have to make a stop. And they had them 3rd and 7, chance to make a 3 and out, and they give up 12 yards and playing like the soft zone. And then there was this one play where it was 3rd and 1, and they just throw this short out to Callaway because they had J.C. Jackson, the best press man corner they have.
He's from right around here, Mockley.
He's 5 yards off the ball, and it's not by his choice.
No, I know.
J.C. Jackson just said, well, I'm going to exercise my cornerback veto power and not get up in his face, and I'm going to stand back here where it's comfortable. There's just been a lot of that where they just seem like the coaching staff and the way they responded to the coaching staff is just at like a C- effort when we're used to a solid 4.0 grade point on that.
No, I agree with you. Because we're just not used to. I don't know if it's because it's a rookie quarterback and everything is they spent all that money on free agency and which they never had to do before. And I know some people are out there like, that's not the way the Patriot way to do it. I'm like, well, they never really had that opportunity to do what they did before. And I still think they went for the right guys that were available. I totally get it. I just think it's going to be it's gonna take a couple of games here. It's unfortunate they got to play Tampa Bay this week after that game, and then they got Houston after that at Houston. The game that, it's a very winnable game with that franchise down there. But I am going to be really, really interested to see how the Patriots attack Tom Brady and all those wide receivers, and what they do. Is Belichick going to drop 7? I mean, or is he going to try and go man coverage, which I think would be a mistake. I don't know who's going to cover Gronk. And if not him, Cameron Brate was very much in. They still have Andy Brate and OJ Howard. I mean, they're just loaded. And I know people say, okay, well then how the Rams do it last week? Well, I mean, you're not gonna. Brady threw for 432 yards, a touchdown, ran for 1, and lost. First time that's ever happened.
Yep.
So if he's doing that against that team, as the Patriots defense better than the Rams, I don't know.
Well, I can offer you a suggestion before Nick joins us, because I heard this for 20 years. What you got to do is you got to move Brady off his spot. Can't let him stand up in the pocket. You gotta send extra guys at him, because you know what? Tom Brady, I don't know if you've heard this, Peter, Nick.
Yeah.
Doesn't like to get hit. Whereas, you know what, right? Because other quarterbacks just love it. When they're not when they're not hoping their line collapses in front of them, they go to dominatrixes and just put on a leather breather mask and ask to get spanked. Like that. How about every time teams try to attack Brady with extra rushers, he devours them?
Yeah.
So that's not the solution.
No,
I'm with you. I don't know what it is.
We lead every week. At some point during the week, we always it's a joke even around here. Here's how you stop Tom. Pressure up the middle. No shit, Sherlock. Really? You're kidding me. Oh, okay. Oh, I thought maybe maybe we'll just do naked bootlegs all the time, get him off his spot. Just to run Steve Brogan highlights.
Yeah. Hey, that's how the Giants did it. Yeah. How many examples do you have? Yes, those Giants losses kill me to this day, but it's not like you've got this huge sample size of examples you can throw at me, like, oh yeah, those 40 games he played against the front as good as that NASCAR front was. The only one in football I think that really compares to it is Tampa Bay's, which is not a threat to him. How you doing, Nick?
Hey guys.
Hey Nick.
Hey, how are you, Peter?
Good. How are you?
Good. I have a question for you, actually. So starting the game last week, we have the incredible run by Harris, but then it looked like we had a total offensive playbook flip over, and we come out after a very dominant 7-yard run, and we start throwing the ball the entire time. Now, yeah, exactly. So how do you feel about that? Like, do you think Josh McDaniels, he saw all the heat he was taking on through the media, and he had to switch it?
Well, I think I'm pretty sure Josh McDaniels doesn't give a crap, or anybody that quarterback, or what the media thinks. I think it's just obvious. You've got to take a couple shots downfield. I was glad they did it early. I thought they did too many too early. I understand, throwing one. He just, we were just talking about, you heard it. He's just missing. I mean, he's a couple strides off, 5 yards here, 5 yards there. I think eventually he's going to hit those throws, but it might have been, and I told my friend early in the game, my buddies, and I said, Mill, Josh maybe sends a message here trying to make sure that they know they can't sleep on our guy throwing deep. We're going to throw deep. He may not complete anything at first, but we're going to make him think about it. Well, that didn't really work out that way at all. They couldn't run the ball. The Patriots could not run the ball at all. And then they had a couple of, there's little room right now with this team for error. I mean, nothing has to be perfect. And it's still, I think, better than last year, because you were on pins and needles every drive. Like, man, there's just no room for error. They got to be almost perfect. I'm not there yet with this team, but I was surprised at the game. I was surprised at the play calling and lack of creativity at some point. I understand throwing it deep. You want to open things up, get it in their head. But like you said, they didn't go back to it at all. And then James White got hurt, and that, even after you get the first down, that deflated everybody. So I'm really interested to see what they're going to do. A guy like, Mac Jones and Devin White out there, who seems to cover everything, that should frighten anybody who's a Patriot fan coming up. And the Bucs defense has not really played up to par yet. Now, I don't think even close. They've been banged up in the secondary, but that front seven that they have, and Devin White, who's just everywhere. I don't know. It could be a rough night for Mac Jones next week. It really could. But We'll see.
It was brilliant what Sean McVay did, and not his first brilliant game plan.
Yeah.
You know, and I recently took a dive into the Super Bowl 53 and how the Patriots defended that offense, which was, I think, 11th highest scoring of all time at that point. And they totally threw stuff at him that they weren't ready for. And he picked apart this superlative Tampa Bay defense in a way that I just don't think the Patriots are there yet. You know,
and Todd Bowles, as defensive coordinator for Tampa Bay, I'm really interested to see what kind of what he comes up with. Scheme's overrated, but what kind of defense he comes up for Mac Jones, or what they're going to do. If I'm the Patriots, I absolutely, at least in the beginning, you try to establish the run. Except Tampa Bay, the one thing that they've been great at. So I mean, they're hard to run on. They really, really are a difficult team to run on. You're just going to have to find a way where it's short passes that get 3-4 yards. That could be their run. I don't know. They're going to have to be very, very creative. Josh McDaniels is going to be, in my opinion, one of the biggest tests of his career for a regular season game. Now, emotions are going to be running high on both sides. So, and you can't tell me deep down that Bill doesn't really want this one. I think they're going to come up with something. I think maybe early on, they're going to frustrate the Buccaneers. They're going to frustrate Tom. But I think there's only so many things you can do to frustrate them. There's just too much talent offensively. It's just too much. You can't cover all these guys. You can't cover Evans and you can't cover Godwin. You can't cover Gronk and Brady's out there. OJ Howard. If Ronald Jones isn't fumbling, he's tough too. Leonard Fournette. I mean, the list is freaking endless. So I don't know. This is the best team. The defending Super Bowl champs coming into Foxborough. This is going to be one of the most incredible. I'm thinking it's going to do a 40 share. I really do. I think it's going to do a 40 share on NBC. I think it's going to be the highest rated regular season game of all time.
It's certainly the biggest regular season game in Patriots history. I'm ready to say in NFL history too. But I mean, I don't want to just do the hot take thing and go all superlatives and stuff. The only thing I can compare it to is the 16th game against the Giants that was on that Saturday night.
Yes, it was.
Which was only going to be on NFL Network, which not many people had. So by the time people were like suing and local districts were demanding their cable providers, it was on like HGTV.
4, 5, and
it was
7.
on
It was on
C-SPAN.
Yeah, it was on 4, 5, and 7, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
Up in Boston.
Exactly.
So,
and that I've always said is the biggest game because not just 16-0, but Brady set the touchdown passing record and
down by 12 late.
The other
Freddie Smith tackled me in the studio. I don't know how I made it to the show, but it was we were going crazy. Huh?
Yes. Touchdown. Okay.
Yeah.
Because that secured the win, the receiving record for Moss, the touchdown record for Brady. There's never been anything like it. I think this compares, except I'd be hard pressed to sit here and go, I think it's going to be a super competitive game.
I really hope it is. The line's only it's 6.5, I think, or 6 right now, which I find low. I mean, is that dangling carrot line, and I don't know. It's going to have to be. They're going to have to play almost flawless to stay in this game. At this point in the season, I wish this game were later in the season. It would have been really, really interesting if this was after Thanksgiving, because that's when, around Thanksgiving, is when you really start to get an idea of what every team is all about. But, man, if Mac Jones, if they can pull this off on Sunday night, wow, holy cow, that's going to be an unbelievable accomplishment. And what a feather in Belichick's cap. And don't think for a second that he doesn't want this game just as much as Tom does. There's no doubt about it.
My biggest priority is to get through this with my mental state intact.
Would you rather have it at a 1 o'clock or a 4 o'clock game? Would you rather have it at night? See, down here now, it's tough for me now. I got to really pace, since I don't have to go to games anymore, thank God, or do post-game shows or pre-game shows anymore. It's fine. But we have, in our little community here at Benita National, it's a big community, but we rotate houses on football on Sunday. And we've been very spoiled, especially actually, most of all the Patriot games are on down here. A lot of them are. When Miami and Tampa Bay are playing, it's been weird. In 4.5 years living here, I probably had to go out maybe half a dozen times to go see the Patriots at a bar or something like that. But they're more. I mean, they've been on every game's been on down here so far, including this one. The one that will not be on is next week against Houston, but that's okay because they're going to do some appearance at some sports bar anyway, so I don't care. I'll be watching it down there. But so I got to pace myself drinking. It's tough when you have the Patriots playing at 1 and Tampa Bay at 4:25, which is the case a lot, or vice versa. Yeah. That's a long day. That's a long day. Cocktails, incredible spreads. All of us bring dishes, cigars. I mean, pool afterwards. Maybe it's tough.
Oh, listen to Pete living his best life, man. It's been years of this, and I just so envy you. And yeah,
well, I shut my phone off. You know, I shut my phone off during the game. I any team that I'm rooting for, whatever, once my phone goes off, I don't go on Twitter. I don't tweet during the game. I turn it on afterwards because you get inundated sometimes. So I was like, I don't want analysis. My friends who are real serious football fans and fun guys. I just want to talk to them. I don't want to talk to anybody else. So I don't talk to you, but
so this is a question for both of you guys. Obviously, we've talked about this before, Jerry, on the podcast, but one thing that New England's struggling with and what we don't have is a deep threat. And the one thing that made me eat my heart out this weekend was watching Deshaun Jackson run up and down the field on them. How come we didn't make a move on Deshaun? A veteran. Like
I don't know, but I'll tell you, it's. I mean, you'd have to ask Bill that. I don't know. I thought they might. All I know, when the deep threat was there, the passes just were off. There were 3 of them that I can remember early on in the game that were just maybe hopefully in a few more weeks he's going to make a couple of those. But those guys were open. They were there. It's just you got to eventually I don't know how seriously you're going to take Mac Jones. He's got to start hitting a couple of those. He's a rookie.
Yeah, and as far as like them picking receivers, there's such an alchemy to it. It's such this indefinable. There's no real science to it, so that you've got guys like established receivers like Joey Galloway and Doug Gabriel come here and can't hack it. But then guys that you would never think would be anything special come and they thrive at it. Malcolm Mitchell for the 1 year that he was healthy. And it's really hard to figure out who can grasp what they're supposed to do and who can't. Now, Nelson Aguilar led the NFL in yards per catch last year at like 18.7. But one of the deep balls, I think, Pete, that you were just referencing, he's running up the hash mark. And the ball landed right between the hashes.
Somebody ran the wrong way.
He was turned out. And my guess is, and I'm just an idiot sitting on his couch, is the middle of the field was open, and that's your read. It's mofo, or it's moke, or it's middle of the field close, MOFC, and there was no safety in the middle.
That should have been a touchdown.
Outside,
I thought it was a touchdown when he threw it. Did you? I really, when the ball's in the air, I was like, oh my God, he's wide open. And then he goes this, and the ball, and I was like, well, I don't, until we know who, either the ball was thrown the wrong way or Aguilar ran the wrong way.
Yeah, only those guys in the film room will know. But just, as I'm sitting here trying to judge it, I'm saying that's on Aguilar. So that's kind of the thing you hope that will clean up. Same thing on defense. I think there is still a work in progress. And for the longest time, I've accepted that September is an extension of training camp in today's NFL with limited padded practices. And 2014, and I bring this up because people were in panic that the Pats were 2-2, and that was the
on to Cincinnati.
We're on to Cincinnati game. Well, the final 4 teams in the league that year all ended up at 500. Like a month or more into the season. So that was the Pats were 2-2, Indy was 2-2, Green Bay was, and Seattle started out 3-3.
Yeah.
So
I mean, look at this year. Look at this year. Kansas City's in last place. It's week 3. I don't put a lot of stock in that, but it's a tough league to predict on a week-to-week basis. The overreaction every single week. I understand it's what we do in the media. I just try not to get. I really just train myself, Jerry, not to get wacko out of control one way or the other in the first month of the season. Glenn and I used to talk all the time. Wait till week 10. Wait till right around Thanksgiving. That's the point where the team develops an identity. Very rarely before. These people just think Patrick Mahomes is going to come out and throw 6 touchdowns every day and just, oh, it doesn't matter if they're down by 10, 20, 30. He'll bring it back. Well, no, he won't. He can't. No, you can't do everything all the time. It's a collective unit. No quarterback can do it all the time like that. I mean, you just don't snap your fingers. These people that were treating the Chiefs, are they going to win like LeBron when he was in Miami? 4, not 3, not 4, not 5, 6. Stop it. You know how hard it is just to get back to the playoffs? I mean, people don't understand that how difficult it is, not only just to win a football game, particularly on the road, but to get back to the playoffs. It's just, you don't just snap your fingers and it happens.
I want to give the last question to Nick, but I have just a semi-personal question, because you were talking about your experience and your phone is off and you're watching with friends and you guys host parties and whatever. You ever had this experience where like your wife is there next to you and completely doesn't care? Like, just because this happened to me, James White, they go to commercial, he's on the ground, he's not moving. And my beguiling Irish Rose, who I love with all my heart, is on the couch next to me, up to her eyeballs in her phone and complaining to me because she just found out the Tony Awards are not on free TV. You have to get a streaming app. I'm like, okay, what do I do with it? Really, honey? Oh my gosh, really? So dear Evan Hansen isn't going to win an award? Like, James White is being carried off the field in a car. What? Who's that? Are they on? Like, okay, I live it to death, but either be with me or you're either with me or you're against me.
Well, I'm lucky. My beloved Greek goddess wife, she's half Irish, but she's Greek. So first of all, she's a Boston College grad. She could probably do sports talk radio if she wanted to. She's in the medical field. She used to be head of pediatric cancer research at Mass General, and she's now does a lot of. She's amazing what she does. She's an amazing sports fan. She gets it, totally does. She's a Boston College grad. Had season tickets for the Patriots for 22 years, and is really, she gets it. When we're with the girls and some of the other girls that we're with on a regular basis, they're sort of into it, but not. She watches. I mean, she doesn't sit with the guys, but she's watching every single play. So, and she totally knows what's going on. So I'm really lucky in that fact.
I love it. I appreciate it. Nick, why don't you bring us home there, brother?
Absolutely. So I have 2 final points, kind of same-ish question.
Yeah.
But so we're looking at this Buccaneers defense. Obviously, Devin White, absolute animal. Yeah. But we're looking at a defense that was rotating their best 2 pass rushers the entire game last week, Ndamukong Suh and Vonta Vea. Yeah. How do you think that they're going to come in? Do you think they're going to rotate them again this week, or do you think they're just going to bowl out?
Why? No, you know why they're not going to rotate him again this week? Because JPP is coming back.
JPP?
Yes, makes a big difference. He didn't play last week. So, Vita Vea, and I mean, he was just a huge person. These guys are all, and Galston, JPP back makes a big difference. And then, Levante David, they've been banged up in the secondary a little bit so far. That's been sort of their Achilles heel. So I'm just going to be interested to see if Josh chucks the ball down the field a little bit early next week too, and if Matt can take it. But I think you're going to see a lot of pressure put. I think Todd Bowles is going to bring it. I really do. I think he's going to bring it, and it's going to be up to Mac. He's going to have to get rid of the ball very, very quickly, because at least initially, I expect a lot of pressure from that front 7, especially that front 4 from Tampa Bay. And then just when you think you may have done, then there's Devin White, who I swear to God, I mean, he is just a beast. He seems to be everywhere. He's like Ed Reed line. Norm Belichick talk about Ed Reed is like he's and Brady. He's everywhere. Devin White is that great of a player, and he can single-handedly kill you.
He moves.
Watch where he is.
He moves laterally like a cornerback.
Yeah.
And he is 250 something pounds.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
It is, and you may see him out line up as an end sometimes. They're going to do some interesting schemes. I guarantee it. Some interesting formations, but that's the chess match. I'm really, really looking forward to see how they attack Brady and how Belichick attacks. Goes at it offensively. See what they can do to try to exploit some of this Tampa Bay secondary. It's been a big Achilles heel so far. So they give up a lot of yards, and they're giving up points.
Absolutely. And my last point was we were looking ahead for this the entire season, And after last week's game, throwing for 400 plus yards, is this going to be the game Brady passes Breeze?
Looks that way, doesn't it? It looks that way. That was projected at the beginning of the season. That would be the case. Yeah.
250 yards a game, and he would have done it. And I think he's done it.
Yeah.
This is going to be the.
It is. And then I want to kind of, will he get an ovation? Will he get an ovation or not?
I think he will.
Oh yeah. It's going to be like airport level noise, but it's going to be a mix. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to be screaming alongside. I mean, you go to Gillette, I went week 1, and people are still wearing number 12 jerseys.
I know.
87 jerseys too. A lot of those. So I just think it's going to be a din, and it's going to be mixed, but I think even the people that are there staying loyal to the Patriots and angry at him for leaving or whatever, I think he's going to win the crowd over. It's going to be, are you not entertained? And the fact that, you know what, tell me that Roger Goodell wasn't born under a goddamn lucky star. Like, for all this to play out, and he schedules him in week 4, and now Brady is undoubtedly going to set the all-time passing record against the team underneath the 6 banners that he hung. You like this whole season already has been one unbelievable game after another. The primetime games have just been
terrific,
phenomenal.
Unbelievable.
And now you're going to have this one on Sunday Night Football. And like you said, it'll be the highest rated TV show. It'll be bigger than The Masked Singer. And I don't say that easily because that's such a fantastic show.
Let me tell you, it's going to be a beautiful night in Foxborough, and the stars are going to be out, and they're going to align.
Yeah, I will go into a catatonic state. I've got that predicted. I've got WebMD all ready to queue up so I can type in my symptoms, because I think it's going to be an out-of-body experience for me, and I might be praying for the sweet release of death. Is this playoff game atmosphere down in Tampa, or people? Is it just kind of another game for?
No, I think it's it's definitely. I think it's around the whole country. It seems like a playoff atmosphere. So, just down here, we don't get a lot of Alex Guerrero calls. You know, no one gives a shit. They don't care about that nonsense. Just win. They just want. They're so enamored with the whole team and everything else. They don't care if Brady eats, avocado ice cream every day. They don't care. Well, there, I know where you guys are in the Guerrero thing. I'm sure it was like discussed at nauseum, instead of like really trying to break down the teams and the games and having fun with it like we used to do. Instead, you got to take fucking Alex Guerrero calls for 4 hours. Was nothing more boring than that. That's boring.
Yeah, and he's at tough times to beat Bill Belichick. He's never had a week like this. He's already been asked about.
Who asked a question today about the interceptions? We played it. What do you think of Mac Jones' interceptions? There's about 15 seconds of dead air. Then he goes, what'd you see in Mac Jones' interceptions? Dead air. Then, same as you.
There you go.
I couldn't figure out who asked the question.
Yeah, his talking points are loved working with Tom. Had a lot of success.
Appreciate you, all that stuff. Yeah.
He wanted to leave. Would have loved to have had him. Didn't work out. He had a better option in Tampa. And then I refer you back to my earlier answer. And I think he's created that closed loop of here are the half a dozen talking points I have. And then by midweek, he'll just be saying, well, I think we've already addressed that. And but it's gonna be hard for him, man. The whole world is ready to just do this, like he's getting pantsed in gym class, and
I know
everyone's pointing
I think it's ridiculous. I think it's absolutely absurd. A bunch of spoiled brats. Really is. And they say, like, you and I sometimes don't look at it objectively. I'm looking at it very objectively. I'm like, you people want Rome built in a day. Been spoiled for 20 years, especially the younger people. You don't freaking know anything about anything. All you know is championships or bust. It's absolutely ridiculous. And again, they're one of many teams that are 1 and 2.
Yep.
So everybody, not to sound like Aaron Rodgers, just chill out a little bit. This week's going to be really, really tough. If they can stay within 10 points, I'm not a big moral victory guy, but I would take that as a Patriots fan. They can keep this within 10 points. And who knows? Stranger things have happened in emotional games like this. We've all seen it. We've seen it. So nothing surprises me anymore. my poor partner Craig with the Lions. I mean, imagine growing up a Lions fan like he has, and then having
No.
to deal with that yesterday.
I can't. No, I can't. There's no part of me that can. Is Martha Ford still running that team?
No, but
No,
her daughter
but-
is. She got booed off the field yesterday on Sunday.
Okay. I mean, she has a map in her office that has like sea serpents on it. Like,
Yeah.
this woman was, she was there when Jesus was in high school, and she has no business running an NFL team.
I hear he wasn't good in geometry.
Oh, there we go. Jesus. Okay, so let's end it on that note. No, Pete, listen, Nick, this was exactly the right guest to have for
Man.
this week.
Right.
I needed someone with that Tampa Bay perspective, but also someone who sees that the sky is not falling, and that even if the Pats end up 1-3, which is a distinct possibility, that there's still plenty going on here that's right, and that they can figure out. Plus, you gave us a lot of laughs, Pete, man. I appreciate the friendship.
Yep.
Appreciate having you on. And
Thank you, and thank you too, Nick. And
No,
anytime,
thank
always a
you.
pleasure. For you, Jerry, anytime. And love Barstool. I think you guys are like, you're the best. Still mad at Portnoy when he came down here and did his pizza thing, not too far from my house. He didn't call me, but he said I was only in town for a few minutes. I was like, okay, all right. I said,
no
I could've just-
excuses, Portnoy. Play like a champion today. Well, I'm going to get my ass down there at some point. But thank you for your time. You've been really generous always.
Thank you, Pete.
Can't
Thank
wait
you.
to talk to you
Thank
again.
you, guys.
and,
Love you.
All right,
Tell
bye.
everybody hello. Love you guys. Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Much appreciated.